Haven't we had great music so far today? Aren't you glad you came to church? Victoria started it off. Ooh, Lord have mercy. That was wonderful. We got to hear the bells, and we got to hear the choir, and now you get to hear the sermon. I'm going to have fun today. So this week, as I was reading this text from Mark 16, I was like, oh, Lord have mercy. This is not a very good ending here, right? Where they said that Mary and all these women that went to the tomb, they left and they were terrified. They were afraid. I thought, come on, Mark, you could do better than that, right? And then scholars, biblical scholars, have been uncomfortable with that, right? They had to fix it, so to speak. And so they had to rewrite an ending that would make more sense, right? And so if you go home and look at your Bibles, you'll see that there's been another ending put on to Mark's gospel here, just to make it make sense. And I just love that. That is such a human thing, isn't it? To want to fix things, to want to fix it. And how many times do we go out of our way thinking that we know how to fix it? Ooh, Lord, have mercy. I love it. And yet we see in the text these women that came had a very human response. Who wouldn't be afraid? The last they knew, Jesus had been put into the tomb, and they're having a conversation. Who's going to roll the stone away for us? Now, thinking that they couldn't do it. Now, that's simply because MCC Richmond women weren't there. Because we know that MCC Richmond would have a handle in a minute, right? Put Sherry Baxter on it, it's going to get taken care of, right? It's going to get moved away. And yet, did you notice in the text how appropriate it was that a youth, a teenager, said to them, do not be afraid. Do not be amazed. It kind of reminds me of what's happening in our own world today. Amen. We've got a bunch of teenagers telling us, we got this handled. Amen. Don't you worry. We've got this handled, right? And I'm so glad that they do, because they will teach us how to stand up and speak up and make a difference in our world. Now, right. But this youth says, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. And yet the women trembled. Who wouldn't? Right? They came to anoint the body of Jesus, and all of a sudden, it is gone. And they said, this youth says to the women, he is risen. Just like he said. He is risen. And yet they were afraid. Who would it be? In our world today, if somebody had risen, we would be afraid to. Let's get real, right? So they were having a very real moment. But I think that that's something that we can take hold of and consider, why did Mark stop here? Why did he do this? So, thinking about it for a whole week, I've come up with what I think is a good explanation. Now, some of you would say that I, too, want to fix it. I tell you, I'm not a control freak, so I do not want to fix it. But I think that what happens here is because Mark does not have the ending that we think, that Mark leaves the text open. He writes the narrative so that we can enter into the narrative. So that we read the story of Jesus' resurrection and we can get excited about it. Or we can be just as afraid with it. Or that we can still wonder, how could this be? And yet at the same time, Mark says, look, it is on your shoulders. Go out and tell people that Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Can you say it? Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. And that reality is what's going to change our world. When we're able to be God's people in this place right now that have been affected profoundly by the resurrection of Jesus. We live by faith. So can we be people who truly live by faith? Who love by faith? Who say that God's got it covered by faith? That says, oh no, I am not anybody to be marginalized. That God says to us, you are holy and perfect just the way you are. Can we say that by faith and really mean it? Because that is what's going to give us freedom. That is what will bring healing to us. And not just some of the time, but all of the time. Can you be the people that God has created us to be? Can we be that free? Because Jesus has risen from the dead. It's something to consider, isn't it? It's something to grab a hold of and say, cancer, you do not have me, because I'm a child of God. And by faith, I'm going to continue to walk as a child of God. Right? Can you be someone who says, oh, my relationship is over. It is painful. And indeed they are. But I am God's child because of the resurrected Jesus. And by faith, I will love again. Can you be the kind of person that endures any kind of hardship, no matter what it is, and say, God has my back because of the resurrected Jesus? You see, when you look at it that way, Mark is really pretty brilliant, isn't he? Because he allows us to live into the text, to be part of the text, and to be part of the story. You know, we have a legacy to live. The legacy isn't who we think we are, but the legacy is who God says we are. Amen. And God says that we are beautiful. God says that you are holy. God says that you are perfect, just the way you are. Can we live that way? Can we take that word to somebody who is downtrodden, to somebody who is broken, and say to them, oh, you do not deserve to be treated this way because you are a child of God. You see, there's one thing I know. When we are bankrupt, emotionally, spiritually bankrupt, it's when we reach out to somebody else with that word of hope, that word of peace, that we get to live into it one more time, and one more time get to experience something profound from God. And that's how the new beginning begins over and over and over and over again. Because life happens, doesn't it? There are things that we don't understand. There are things that happen that break our hearts. And yet at the same time, there's wonders that happen. There's new life. There's new beauty. All of it is waiting to be explored. And so go from this place today, knowing that Jesus is risen. He is risen indeed, and that will change your life. And as you go out, don't let anybody else not hear the message. Why? Because enough is enough. Right? Enough is enough. And it is time that people of faith stand up and speak up by faith. Amen. Amen.